Welcome to AP Workshops, welcome to another one of our tech info thingies that we do. Thingies, I think that should be a word. It's definitely a word in here anyway. So welcome to one of our tech thingies. Today we're going to be assessing an RSVR SP. So welcome back to AP Workshops, welcome back to our tech thingy, as we're going to start calling them. In fact, I think it's probably going to be in the title, Tech Thingies. So we're going to do an evaluation on number 134 of 150 RSVR SPs.
You're beautiful.
Now basically a brief explanation, what is an SP? So in 2000, Aprilia had to homologate 150 bikes in order for them to be able to run a bike in World, or run two bikes in World Superbikes. This is number 134 of 150. So we've been asked by a friend of ours who is looking to buy one to do an assessment on this particular bike and a little bit of a film so he can see what's going on. So he wants to buy it basically. So what we're going to do is just run through the bike, give him a bit of an assessment on what's going on with it, what needs correcting on it, what doesn't need correcting, what's right, what's wrong, and just to make sure that this is absolutely the bike that's right for him. So I've had a quick nose round to find out what's going on, just to have a quick look at sort of see what's happening. The bike runs lovely, it's super clean, and so the guy who actually owns this bike at the moment basically has done an absolutely bang up job on keeping it tidy and nice and stuff like that, no problems. But there's a couple of little things that I've found that I'm going to correct and sort of make sure that that it's right before it does go anywhere, just to make sure that the guy that's buying the bike is actually going to get him something that's just going to be get on and ride, no questions whatsoever. So basically what I'm going to do is look at what's happening. We're going to start at the front and work our way back both sides just so we can see what's happening. Just have a look at something that's not correct. I'm going to nerd out a little bit because basically I don't get the chance very often to nerd out. And show you kind of like a couple of odds and sods that are not quite correct, and sort of nuts and bolts that are missing that should be there, that kind of stuff. So to give you a bit of an idea about what's going on with it. So basically the bike's really clean, really good in this particular instance. So kind of like there's only just like little bits of sort of muck underneath here, that kind of stuff. But you know what, that's neither here nor there. The one thing that is standing out to me that is absolutely not correct is the fact that the front end, the forks are in the yokes in the wrong position. So if you have a look, the actual forks at the top here, there should be 3 rings showing on these Öhlins forks. So that's going to affect the steering geometry. That's going to affect the way that the bike actually pitches into a corner. So there's literally the way that will affect it is, if you imagine when you're riding a bike and when you're riding it, the way that it feels when it's into the first part of the turn, effectively you'll find that it's going to be more difficult to steer into a corner because the forks have been lowered through the yokes more than they should be. So we need to put that back. Basically, when these bikes were new, it was 3 rings that were showing from standard, and 4 rings was possibly, or what they would consider to be the race setting. So we've got to reconsider that and just make sure we're resetting that. Okay, so we found there's when this front end's been rebuilt back up a little bit, there's a wire trapped. So this is the indicator wiring. The indicator wiring basically goes in through this inner tube here and goes out through the back, but it looks like it's been caught in the fairings here. So this side of the fairing, or this side of the air scoop, needs taking off, and this needs rerouting properly. That's not correct. Just round here, there's 2 nuts. Excuse me.
Nothing to see here, please.
Just here, there's two screws which hold the fairing or the nose fairings on at the front. So they actually join these air scoops to the front scoop here. Those bolts are just generic aftermarket screws. They're going to need changing because they're not correct. They there should be the same as those there, but they're not. So they've been changed for something else. So it's little details like that that I think the guy who's buying wants in place. There's some screws down here on the front of the belly pan down here that actually hold those screws in there. They're not correct as well. They should be the same screws as, I believe, let me just double check. They should be the same screws as these ones, which actually sort of hold that on there. So these sort of I don't know kind of what you call them, flanged button head screws, M6x1, they should be in there, but they're not in there, so they're not correct. We're going to change those, no problems. It looks like it's had some time and money spent on it in the past, because whoever's built the front ends, like basically these wheels look absolutely immaculate, fresh tyres, which is really, really nice. And when they've put it together, they've basically put it together, but they've marked up the nuts and bolts, which is a really good thing on these bikes. There's something we do in this workshop frequently. So every time the bike gets tightened up or a nut and bolt gets tightened up, it gets tightened up to the correct torque, and then it gets marked off with the tyre pen. It's just so you can see a visual kind of at a glance that it's been done and it's been tightened up correctly. That's absolutely perfect.
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
So something else that's kind of not quite correct as well, which is something that's there's different types of clamps on the inlet manifolds there. There's like a Jubilee clip on the bottom clamp, and then there's like the standard clamp on the top of the actual inlet manifold there. That's not correct. I believe they both, I know it sounds really daft, but they both had Jubilee clips on them from standard, same as these. They're kind of, that's not sort of, that's nice, but it's kind of normally would be slightly different. I'm going to change the brake fluid in it because it looks old at this point in time. I don't like that. The clips on these are the wrong colour on these overflows. So from the pipework in here, effectively we've got two pipes which run from the tank. Let me just stop a second. Basically this tank, I don't know if you've ever seen the films that we've done before on these SPs, but the tanks on these are handmade.
That's amazing.
And you can tell straight away by running your hand just down the side or just on the underneath here, you can actually feel there's a line of weld. So it's basically, instead of it being sort of curved around like it had been pressed, because these are handmade, you can feel the line of weld. So you can feel like the beads of weld. It's a little bit untidy, which is exactly what you're looking for, because basically race bikes, if you kind of look underneath them, they're not necessarily the most beautiful and wonderful things, because they're made for a purpose rather than to look good. So effectively, you've got that little bead which you can see under here. The clips on these overflow pipes, so through the tank cap there would be a ventilation to allow water to drain away, that kind of thing runs through these. Basically there's two pipes which run through, which we're going to need to check, just because in the metal tanks basically they have two pipes which join the tank cap to the base here. Now the base there unfortunately is joined by pipework which isn't resistant to the ethanol fuel or the ethanol rich fuel that we're subjected to these days, so that's going to need to be pulled and checked just to be on the safe side. But the clips on these little pipework here, the clips just aren't correct, that's all. It's just they should be black, these are silver, which means these are slightly later ones. But it's detail like that which just really doesn't matter, no problems. Right, we're going to move back a little bit further then, just to find out what's going on a little bit further back. Okay, they're basically just a little bit further around the back end. The SP comes with a black subframe, which is quite, like I said, which is sort of a lot of the sort of our standard sort of bikes of this particular year, the RSVRs, they came with a silver. So this is a black one that from out the factory. We can tell that there's a slightly different, or we can tell this is the real deal as well, just because the exhaust, there's like a manifold clip and the collector just underneath there, which is right. And also just underneath here, there isn't a big sort of manifold here, which is what there would be on the RSVs. These are actually sort of two separate pipes which run into these glorious shotguns exhausts. Like I said, absolutely unique to the SP.
God,
Exactly the same as the hanger. That would be the same. That's unique to the SP as well. So this is all looking really, really good. It's all looking nice and clean. There isn't any sort of significant damage to the actual swinging arm below, which would suggest that there's been no crash. It's not been dropped on that side, anything along those lines. There's no damage to the underside of the sort of, other than a slight little drop there by the looks of things, but there's no damage to the frame, which looks really, really nice. This has all been checked because it's been penned off, so we can see that's okay. And it is looking really, really good and clean in there. Cable tie in the right place on the rear brake. That looks like it's standard. It's not been cut off with a flush cut, so it's one of those savage, brutal cable ties that cuts you to ribbons when you go in there. So we'll keep moving around and having a quick look around the back. Okay, so we're back at the rear end. I've just noticed, I've just looked down at the disc, and the disc's contaminated with some kind of snot that I need to deal with. I can't let the bike go out like that, no problems. That's got to be changed. It looks like somebody's kind of just smeared some grease all over the discs again, which is quite a comical thing if you're looking at our Facebook posts recently. We are actually missing a reflector off the back here. That should have a reflector that just sits on a little stem. Oddly enough, still available as a spare part, no problems. That's available, dead easy. Fresh tyres, 180/55, the correct size for it as well, no problems. And literally the one that is unique to, I think, to about 2000 or 2000, it's got the red under tray on it that still completes all of these like little wings which actually hold the number plate mounts. They're all still in place. That's really, really nice. Like I said, it looks like these wheels are absolutely in perfect condition. That's really, really cool. So that's really nice, no problems. Let's keep moving around and have a look. Okay, so we're back. Just going to have a quick look on the inside to see what's going on inside here. And sure enough, in line with what's gone on in the past in the UK, you can see that basically this has had an alarm on it in the past. So this has got an alarm bypass on it, and this has got a charger on it. So we need to get... I think that needs to come out definitely, and potentially, like I said, depending on what the buyer wants to do, whether we remove the alarm wiring for that, because that's not standard. You can see it's been actually used or something. I think this bike's got about 5,000 miles on it, because it's just got the two little marks on the paintwork here where the single seat cowl's just been rubbing. But you know what? That's all part of the character of this bike.
So damn beautiful.
If you run just around here, just down here, down to this part, you can actually see this IM plate down here. The IM plate can tell that it was originally a UK bike, because the bike's actually been stamped in the UK section on that little plaque there. So this is a genuine UK bike that's been in this country for all of its life. Okay, back down into this side. So something's been changed around this back edge, around the back wheel, because we've got basically the studs for the chain that mount the actual sprocket around the background there. These have got sort of the ones, or the studs, or the actual sprocket carrier bolts that have got the plinths on them for lock wire. That one's missing one. You've got one there. That one's missing one. So something's changed in that area at some point, but this is quite normal. The reason why it's quite normal is just because basically a lot of the time on V-twins, these come loose. They are a nylock nut, but they come loose. So if you ever get a service done in this building, you kind of remember that you'll get those little white marks on that kind of thing. So you can see that that's been going on. This has had ceramic grease on it at some point in time, but it does look still like the standard chain on it. The standard chain that came on it, I think pretty much, I'll have a quick look at that. It looks like the standard sprocket still. Yeah, which is an FAM sprocket. So yeah, that's definitely still the original part. And if you have a look on the swinging arm down here, this kind of information plaque, again, this is unique to the SP. So basically you can see on here, it's still got the sticker that says SP Mille. Like I said, that only came with these particular bikes. Wow. If you have a look at the other videos, it goes into a bit more detail about the differences between the standard ones, but I can just see the frame number, I can just see the engine number down there. It's hand stamped, so that's okay, no problems with that, that's all good. And this all stuff, if you have a look on the back of it, it's still got the little genuine plaque on it that's kind of fiberglassed in or resined in on the back that says Aprilia Racing on it. Keep moving forward a tiny little bit. Again, we're looking at the pipework. The pipework's in really good condition. The engine's brutally clean, which is really, really nice, which is just really nice to see, because it means that somebody's spent a little bit of time looking after it. Still got the standard airbox in, so genuine UK bikes would have come with a standard airbox, what they call the ME style airbox, which is effectively same as RSV 98 to 2000, slightly bigger than the 2001 to 2003 bikes, but it's all in there still, no problems whatsoever. That's cool. Another thing that's kind of just changed slightly, if you have a quick look, the key's got the actual like a casing over it, so it's been cut up in the past and had the alarm casing stuck over the top of it, which is how in the past you would have, like a little button on it, so how you would have activated the alarm. So we'll have to talk about whether that wants removing or not, if the guy's going to buy the bike or not. There's a little mark here on the frame here, which would suggest that there's potentially been some kind of a bash on it. I don't know if that's from the actual gear lever, because it doesn't go up far enough to actually bend it up that far. So I'm not 100% sure what's gone on with that, whether that's actually been marked with a boot or something at some point in time, because if you have a quick look, it's actually perfect underneath the actual lever itself, and it's actually clean underneath here, underneath the paddock stand bobbin, which can sometimes touch down as well, because if you imagine all of this folds up, the paddock stand bobbin's clean, and the underside of the swinging arm's absolutely perfect. And like I said, that is absolutely the original swinging arm for this bike, because you just can't get hold of those plaques there at all. Little bit of dirt underneath here, which is just to suggest that somebody's cleaned it and washed it in the past without sort of taking it off again. The bike's probably a little bit overfull. We've had a look inside the airbox, and there is a little bit of oil in the airbox, which suggests it's just been overfilled at the point. You would fill these up again exactly the same as you would do with the sort of normal Rotax engine, rather than this Cosworth developed engine. You fill them up exactly the same way. So you put 3 litres in, run the bike up till the fans come on, and then basically, like I said, just top it up to halfway. It does stop all of this kind of being filled up, just stop this airbox being filled up with oil. But other than that, apart from a tiny little bit of corrosion from the nickel coating on the back of the fans, and I've had a quick look inside, the sound deadening, sponge sound deadening is missing from the inside of there, but this is a 20-year-old bike. I think if you start going too far into it, and if you start digging into it and restoring it too far, you can kind of lose the character of the bike. And if you start losing the character of the bike and kind of disappearing into being completely perfect with it, you're going to be scared to death to ride the bloody bike. And I think that's the biggest tragic thing in the world. There's a really nice little touch as well. If you have a look, there's a little bit of like clear tape, protective tape, which these cables kind of stop. They stop cable rub here, so that's fantastic. That's still in place. That's quite a rare thing to keep in place. But the bike in general is in really, really good condition. There's no oil leaks on it. It's clean. It's been looked after. Apart from a little bit of wiring repair from that up there, and like I said, I want to change the pipes inside the tank just in case they've been because I've not want to check those, because if they break, then basically what happens is the fuel that's in there just pours down all over the engine, and you end up with pools of fuel all over the floor underneath the bike, which is potentially dangerous. So we're going to deal with that as well just before that goes anywhere. Okay, one other thing that I've just seen as well, in fact, 2 other things that I've just seen as well that I'd like to just sort of point out to just make sure that we're kind of in the interest of transparency for everything as well. The wire for the indicators, that side again has been trapped in the fairings this side, so that needs dealing with. And just like I said, in the interest of clarity and sort of, we are actually doing an assessment on this bike. The actual fixings for the screen here, the fixings, they're aftermarket. I'm not sure what they're from, but they should be press studs. Literally, it's like little press stud with star washers on the back. You can tell it's the real deal and the screen's correct because it's so thin and so flimsy. If you have a look at the RSVR, and if you have a look at the RSVs when they came out, this profile around the edge, around the back, was actually sort of cast into the clear perspex when it was made. But the race versions have this on them, have like an aftermarket beading that goes around the outside of them, just to sort of, so you can take it off. Just there's no point in it being there. I think it has to have these on to pass homologation. So, but it's really thin. So if you have a look, it flexes really, really well. So, other than a few nuts and bolts to change just to make it right, and a few fixings to change here, and a few bit of wiring there, and like I said, a bit of a wiring repair up there. Paintwork's in great condition. It's a literally great condition. There's been a few touch-ups and a few polishes here and there, but the bike's done 5,000 miles from new.
Wow.
So literally, this is a 23-year-old bike at this point in time. Well, 24-year-old, 23 and a half, whatever, year-old bike, and it's just in fantastic condition. The bike runs and drives nice. We've actually kind of just run it up. It's got fresh tyres on it. We've still got the stickers on it, so it's absolutely kind of mint in that respect. All of the frame numbers tally up with what we've got going on the paperwork. So I'm going to go over it one more time, have a quick conversation with the seller, have a quick conversation with the buyer and see what goes on with that one. I just thought I would take you along for the ride on this one. Just nerd out a little bit. In fact, as it goes, oh yeah, hang on a second, look as well. Oh, I've just seen it as well rather than rattling on. Come and have a look at this.
Uh-oh.
So if you have a quick look there, you can see just where that Allen key is pointing, that clamp is broken there and it's catching underneath that washer there. So that is absolutely, that's dangerous, that's got to be fixed. We can't have that at all. That nut's come out, that should be a grub screw, so somebody's damaged that in the past and fixed that. Basically that clamp there needs replacing because that's broken. So that needs to be something. So there's something else we've got to talk about. Right, just as I was signing off, there's a gear indicator on this which needs to go because that's just nasty. And basically these bolts here, these look like they are some kind of aftermarket bolts. So these are the bolts that clamp down the top yoke or the bolts or the forks into the yokes. This is they need replacing, they need getting out of there because they're not correct as well. Like I said, depending on what the buyer wants to do, whether it's there or not, but I know for a fact that they're not correct. They should be, or they should look, or like have a nickel coating on them, which is, a zinc coating on them, which I think is the standard spec for those, no problems. So that's it. We've just had a quick nose round it. We've seen what's going on. We can see what's happening with the bike. We're going to have a quick nose round it and go around it a little bit further. We'll make an assessment. We'll write the report out. We'll have a quick chat with the seller, have a quick chat with the buyer, see what he wants to do and see what he wants us to fix, what he doesn't want us to fix, and we'll see if we can put this deal together. So happy days on this one. It's a beautiful bike nonetheless. It's only a little bit of work that needs doing just to make it right. If you've got a bike you want us to sell, do some assessments on, that's not a problem. We can absolutely do that, no problem whatsoever. If you've got anything you want to get in touch with us about, please don't hesitate. You can get in touch with us, sales@apworkshops.co.uk. You can email us there. Have a quick look on the website, www.apworkshops.co.uk. We've got loads of technical stuff in there, including manuals. And if you're still stuck, like I said, drop us an email, give us a call. We're happy to help you. Just want to say, like I said, a big thanks to our sponsors. Big thanks to everybody that looks after us and helps us. That's RST Clothing, ARAI Helmets, Motul Oils, GB Racing, the guys at GB Racing. Look those guys up. They are absolutely fantastic. Their gear is amazing. If you want to get in touch with us, like I said, email, call, no problems whatsoever. Massive, massive thanks to everybody that's gone onto the website and supports us with getting their spare parts, the accessories from us. We really, really appreciate it. From all the guys here, thanks very much. Take care and we'll talk to you soon.